A very good afternoon and greetings from Berlin. So me and Dan, we both based in Berlin, and I'm Ping. And today we're going to talk about developing an e-learning curriculum using World Heritage. We will do the presentation with my colleague Dan together. But before start, I would like to really thank European as organizer to invite us to this important event and let us share with you our project and the prototype we're working on. And also I would like to thank the supporting team for being so patient and so thoughtful. So this is sorry, I cannot go to the next page. Okay, good. This is the structure, and Dan and me will take turns to walk you through the presentation. And first, I will talk about why World Heritage, why we're using World Heritage. That actually comes along with a little bit with my background. I have been working in the field of UNESCO World Heritage for the past 15 years. On different roles. I worked for the UNESCO Category 2 centers with focus on research and capacity building for Asia and Pacific as a deputy director. And I also had experience working in the World Heritage and Education, but mainly in the higher education section. I worked as a visiting professor in a German university called BTU Cottbus to teaching in the master study on World Heritage. I also did different consulting jobs for UNESCO projects. And because of this job, it actually gave me the privilege to visit many World Heritage sites, specially guided with local experts. Those inspirational experience not only benefits my professional career, but also my personal lives in different perspectives. And when I become a mother, and naturally, I would like my children to be able to experience this inspirational experience. And I thought there might be a good way to pass on this experience and knowledge in an interesting and engaging way. That is some personal motivations of using World Heritage. But also I would give a little bit more information on World Heritage for those who are not that familiar with. World Heritage is defined by the UNESCO World Heritage Convention, adopted in 1972. And as of today, there are 194 states verified and ratified this convention. It is one of the most universally adopted convention, which set up actually a framework for international cooperation to preserve and protecting the cultural treasures and the natural sites with outstanding universal value. As of today, there are 1,121 World Heritage sites across 167 countries. So that's a brief idea about what is World Heritage. It is outstanding universal places. Before I go in a little bit further, I would like to invite you to menti.com to do some activities together with you. It is very straightforward. If you open a new tab in your browser and type in www.menti.com, and you will be asked to put in a code. The code is 1079811, and then you will be able to go to my questions in menti.com. And can you see the presentation in menti.com? So my first question will be, what 3 words come to your mind when you think of World Heritage? Or what 3 pictures or what 3 images come to your mind, whatever. And then please type in your answers and we can share. Thank you. I already received some very interesting inputs. This is a cloud game. Interesting. So monuments, certainly. The bigger the words means more people are mentioning it. Culture, pollution, tourism, protection, crafts, history, Jurassic Coast, that is from UK, I guess. Human, beauty, exactly, respect. Thank you. I will give 10 more seconds. Stonehenge. Importance. More coming? Okay. I think that actually really indicates something that I want to share with you. The World Heritage represents really a diversity of different types of heritage. And I can see that most of us are from the culture sector. So we mentioned lots of very important culture sites and mentioned about history, about crafts, castles, monuments, and but don't forget the World Heritage also, the beauty of World Heritage Convention is actually combine the culture and nature part. It reminds us the way people interact with nature and the fundamental needs that we need to keep a balance of the two. So we also have wonderful World Heritage natural sites in Europe, like the Wadden Sea, which across Denmark, Germany, New Zealand, the Dolomites in Italy. So what I want to show here, and which actually you reaffirmed, is what heritage represent outstanding places with cultural diversity and also biodiversity, which hasn't been mentioned many here, but actually indeed World Heritage is for both sides. And we can also see that the World Heritage sites actually overlap with the GLAM sectors, which Europeana is focused on. Many of them are museums, are galleries, are functioning as research institutions. But it is more than that. It's extended to many different other types of heritage properties. And so don't leave. I want you to continue with the second question here. Good. So the second question, if you can see, I want you to make a very simple multiple choice or single choice as you wish. So what took you to a World Heritage Site last time? You can link to these nice gift pictures. Thank you. Yeah, we can see until now, we still have more inputs coming, but certainly tourism is prevailing activities that brings you to the World Heritage Site. The World Heritage actually we can regard as very important branding in the tourism market. And because its attractiveness and it also being a first choice for many conferences and business related activities. And yeah, sometimes you come to a site, you find, wow, this is a World Heritage Site. You are not purposely want to visit, but I hope most of the time is a good surprise for you to find out this is a World Heritage Site. Yeah, but we can see also there are a certain percentage, especially from a professional group like us. We also go to World Heritage for sites for educational activities, but it is certainly not as popular as tourism activities. And there is a big potential for education to use World Heritage that we haven't really fully developed the potential. If we take a look of the World Heritage 10 criteria, which we use the criteria to select World Heritage, we can see clearly the World Heritage not only demonstrate a special outstanding value, but also has a high potential for educational activities. For example, the World Heritage sites represent masterpieces of human creative genius and represent the very special architecture, technology ensemblings with special values, and they represent outstanding examples of human histories. And also it's associated closely with events, living traditions, ideas, beliefs, artistic and literature works. This is only from the culture part. From nature part is even more clear because the World Heritage sites are outstanding examples of the major stage of Earth's history, of a significant ongoing geological process, a geomorphology and physiographic features and representing significant ongoing ecological and biological process and important natural habitats. So these are the knowledge that has been thoroughly researched on the World Heritage sites. It has big potential to engage different people in the learning process of different special themes. So thank you very much for the cooperation and inputs. I will lead you back to our Zoom meeting presentation. Let's see, yeah. So what I want to show you here is a diagram that just try to explain that we want to actually bridging the gap that we already see to unveil the potential of educational activities on World Heritage sites or using World Heritage resources. The core elements was stayed in the middle. There are 3 parts, but actually interlinked each other. Our content design are based on the values and embedded knowledge of UNESCO World Heritage, and that actually links to our daily life in countless ways. The UNESCO World Heritage sites are normally, most of them actually are presenting a very vivid living environment or context for students or young people especially to engage and explore a particular theme in a living context. And the UNESCO World Heritage also has individual challenges, which is a very good case for students to learn in reality what is the global challenges, how could we do sustainably, how could we achieve sustainable goals in a very concrete case. And then we employ these learning technologies through this e-learning using the e-learning platforms. We're trying to engage children. Our target group are 9 to 16 years old children in an active learning process. We want to, in this way, prepare children better with a 21st century skill set to dealing with their challenges in their future life and work. Then I handed over the floor to my colleague Dan. And would you please also introduce yourself?
Yes, certainly. So my name is Dan Sansome. I've been working in the field of education around the world for the last 20 years. I've worked in different countries and in different fields, and one of those areas of specialism is educational technology. And let me just share my screen with you. So let's dig down a little bit and go further into what is the project. And as Ping mentioned, one of the essential idea is to bridge the gap between the potential that World Heritage sites have as a learning resource and link that resource to young people so that they can learn from these sites. And at the moment, we're collaborating with 2 World Heritage sites in Germany, Erzgebirge and Augsburg. And both of these sites are examples of water management systems. And effectively, we're trying to bridge this gap digitally by developing online learning resources. So then, oops, gone the wrong way, apologies. How are we doing this? So the working process is the first step was to identify World Heritage sites that would want to collaborate with us, and then think about the key topics that these sites embody. So in this case, it's water for Erzgebirge. From that, we then did some research looking at the curricula from German states and thought about, okay, how can we link the theme of water to what schools need to teach students? What objectives do they have? What are the competencies that they should be developing? From that, we then went on to develop lesson plans with clear aims so that we could structure the learning process. And using those structures, we've been developing prototypes for online learning activities. And we've been using H5P, which is a software package which enables you to develop SCORM packages, which are shareable content object reference models. Now, this is because at the moment we are not certain about which learning management system we might be using. So we want to have the flexibility to be able to use our objects in different places. So different schools with different learning management systems would be able to use the online activities that we create. So for example, one of the prototypes that we have is about water, and in the curriculum, it's looking at how students should learn about how they use water in everyday life, and that water is not just about drinking, but it's used in industrial processes as well. So Erzgebirge is a very good example of this because it's a mine, and water was used in the past for many different mining processes. And we're now moving into the next stage where we're going to collaborate with school teachers and also with their students so that we can test what we've produced to make sure that it does align to specific school curriculums, and then that the students enjoy it and find it useful and it helps them in terms of their learning, which kind of links next to the pedagogical principles that underpin what we're doing. The key one is agency. We would like the students to be able to choose the way that they learn and to make it as active as possible. And combined with that is the idea of fostering an online community so that students can share their research, or we've set up activities where the student can create something, can build something, and then they should be able to share it online so that other students can see what other people have done and learn from their experience as well. One of the advantages of online learning can be that it is self-paced. So that enables learners to learn at a pace which suits them. So that helps people with different abilities and different approaches to learning to study. That element of flexibility, we've also been thinking in terms of how teachers may use the online resource both synchronously and asynchronously. So for example, a tutor could be using it in a classroom. The students may go and do a small part of the activities alone, then come back and then work together as a group, sharing what they've learned. And this is one of the ideas of the flexibility, that the tutor can use it this way, or, for example, if the students are working alone at home, they can also do it that way. And the next point about linking the online and offline worlds is the idea that we don't want to just lock people into a digital realm, but it's encouraging the students to explore the world around them, that we would set a task that encourages them, for example, to observe how much water they use in their everyday life, and then share the experiment that they've done. The last point relates to the concept of gamification, and we've also thought hard about trying to develop a scenario so that the student engages with a kind of story, basically. And that story is that they are playing a role, that they've been selected by this organization, the Time Trek team, and they are sent on a mission to do something. And combined with that is, when they complete their mission, they would then get badges, a little bit like the Cub Scouts in the United Kingdom, or like guides and brownies, this sort of thing, where you could get a badge for doing something. This is a similar concept. I think, therefore, moving on, I am going to set you a mission. You have been chosen by the Time Trek team, and you will be traveling back to a medieval silver mine in Erzgebirge. I hope you're ready for this. But before you go, I'd like to know, what would you like to find out? So if you were traveling back in time and going to a medieval silver mine, what would you like to know? What kind of tickles your interest? If you could write your questions in the chat section, that would be great. And whilst you're writing that, I will share, we will travel back in time. Okay. So welcome to Dipoldiswalde. And here you're meeting Hans, who is working in a mine. But Hans isn't completely certain about your abilities. He wants to check that you are able to work in a mine. So to do this, you have a task. Your first task is, do you know a shovel from a chisel? So for example, what do you use to dig a hole? I can collect some rocks. I can break the rocks. And I can check it. Not bad. And then, well, as we mentioned, water is one of the key themes. And Hans has a problem because he's been digging deeper and the mine is being filling up with water. Why do you think there's so much water in the mine? Is it because the mine is going below the top of the water table? Or when it rains, the water collects in the mine? Or the miners use it as a toilet? Well, let's see. I'm going to say the mine is going below the top of the water table. Good. I'm going to be a good miner. Now, as I mentioned, part of the idea is to break people out of the digital realm. And here, this is an activity where Hans gives you some objects and then says, well, okay, how can you invent something to get the water out of the mine? You have these objects. Can you put them together to do that? And there is a link here. And as you can see, for example, a student might post a picture. Well, you can put these things together to create a mine. Then other students can come and look at this, and if they like it, they can like it. Now, I want to go back to Erzgebirge, and Hans does give feedback. We've created a little video where Hans illustrates how he gets these ideas. You could have a look at this at your own leisure at another time. I'm now going to hand back to Ping, who will talk to you a little bit more about how our project can link with Europeana.
Yes, thanks, Dan. And this is only a kind of demo and teaser for you to understand a little bit better that what we do with this e-learning curriculum we're developing and the process. To update you with the progress, actually, the prototype we're doing is focused on the theme of water and water management. We have two German water heritage sites are quite enthusiastic in participating of developing the e-learning programs. And one with Esgebirge has already been approved. So we're in the way of developing the small prototype to show one part of the learning process. We very much like to cooperate with Europeana and in many different ways, because Europeana is, for me, it's a great initiative, and there are great people there, and it's a great place to bridging these two sectors of cultural heritage, our heritage, and together with education purposes. And actually, from yesterday's presentation programs, we have learned more about different initiatives. There are many ways that we can link to each other, and there are two obvious more straightforward ways that I could illustrate here. The first one is the resources, because Europeana has Europeana collections. You have a vast store of cultural heritage materials, especially digitalized materials. So we certainly be able to use this material in our content design and promote it when we are collaborating with different schools and school teachers. And at the same time, in the process of developing the e-learning programs, we're helping the local sites to digitalize their materials. So, and with a more in a kind of curated and organized the thematic themes. So that can be used to enrich the digital resources for Europeana. So this is one perspective I could think about. And the second one I'm very enthusiastic about, it's a teaching with Europeana, which fits really well with our project concept and how we want to bridging these two sectors. And so we could share and test our e-learning programs with the European school nets and with the museum educators or school educators, or even non-formal educators in a way, to test and share and see, get feedbacks and how the students react to it and what kind of elements you want to add it on. So it's a very good like a testing ground for us. And also we would really invite people who are sharing the same interest to join us to develop some pilot curriculums together, because I think we were not only developing the curriculum, the prototype on the theme of water, we were expanding to other different themes. So we also like to collecting ideas from you, what you think is important, what is missing in your curriculum, how could we support you? So this is also another perspective we would really like to work on. I had the pleasure to participate several of workshops organized by Europeana with Euroclio or Historiana. I think this is really inspirational, and I would like to carry on this spirit and to be engaged, more engaged with the work of Europeana. So then I hand it over to Dan again. So he will mention about some challenges we are facing in this development process. Dan.
Thank you, Ping. So as you can see, here are a few challenges that we're facing. And interestingly enough, some of the questions that have been in the chat have related to this first topic in terms of, I had a question about how do you set clear learning objectives, which I think is a very good question. And one of the complications, for example, in Germany, is that you have different states have different curricula, and we've been looking and trying to work out how to blend these together. Also, we're dealing with copyright issues. You will notice that we've been using photos. I've been very careful to attribute them, and these photos are actually all from Erzgebirge, and they're from the World Heritage website. The other thing that we're really concerned about is trying to avoid reinventing the wheel. That on the one hand, we're looking to try to reuse resources that are already out there, so that, okay, there's part of it which is we don't want to waste our time, as it were, in some sense, or even if it's there, it would be great to be able to use it. And also conversely, when we are creating something, it'd be really good for people to be able to use what we develop as well. So for example, the H5P resources are open source, so you should be able to use it if you wanted to. The other question is the topic of scalability and sustainability, which are kind of linked. So for example, in the process of developing the online framework, part of the idea is to create a framework that can be reused in different topics and different sites quite easily. So that enables us to have an easy, scalable product. But then, for example, the concept of sustainability, I think, links in two ways. One is when you're creating interactive resources, who is doing the interaction? And helping, like, making that possible. So for example, I worked in the past on a prototype teaching English as a foreign language using an app, but then if the teacher is really having to engage all the time on that, that's quite labor intensive. How sustainable is this? And the other issue kind of links back to Harry Verwaayen's keynote, where he mentioned, okay, all this online activity has a carbon footprint. So we should be thinking about the sustainability of that too. Beneath that is the old chestnut. Well, I suppose it's not really an old chestnut but data protection. And again, because we're working with kids, this is a really, really key factor that is a challenge because, for example, the different learning management systems have different protocols. Therefore, we need to be able to adapt to this. If we're working in schools, different schools, they have different procedures. So these are all questions that are uppermost in our mind. And the last, but definitely not least, is the question of accessibility. And you could break this into a different, I suppose, two different specific areas. One is connected to the concept of digital divides, and the other would be to do with different abilities. So in the past, I've worked supporting students who were blind to access resources online, so that they need to be able to use a screen reader. So we need to be thinking about the W3C checks so that we can make sure that we are creating a resource for everyone. And that kind of and that benefits everybody at the end of the day, because we're going to make things multisensory, which is good for learning. But we would like to pick your brains. I'm afraid you can't just sit here. You're going to have to speak. As I think it was Jitsi Kramer this morning was talking about sitting around campfires. Well, we're going to go off and we're going to sit around a couple of campfires, because have you faced similar challenges? And how have you dealt with them? And perhaps even a third question that we could ask is, are there challenges that we haven't thought of that we should do? We're going to break you up into 2 groups randomly, and Ping and myself will share the different breakout rooms. And yeah, we'd like to get some of your feedback, if possible, please. The breakout room was great. We had some really interesting comments and yeah, ideas for collaboration in the future. So yeah, thank you very much. Do stay in touch with us. And these are our emails. Thank you very much for joining us today, taking the time, and I hope you have found it thought-provoking and interesting, and thank you for your questions.